What is up, guys? Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be matchmaking the UFC Welterweight division. So I'm going to be going all the way from the top of the division, like Usman, Shavkat, Bilal, all the way down to a couple people right outside of the rankings that if they win their fight, they could get a fight back inside the rankings, right? So yeah, the whole top 15 in welterweight is unbooked right now. So yeah, there's a lot of fights to be booked. So let's get started. First fight, Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. I get it. A lot of people don't like Bilal. He's boring, this, that, and that. But he's earned his title shot, right? I'm not a fan of Bilal Muhammad. I'm neutral towards him. I don't like him. I don't dislike him. But he's earned his title shot. He was promised a title shot if he beat Gilbert Burns. They gave the title shot to somebody else, which I was happy that they did, because I like Colby and I wanted him to beat Leon. And the fight was more exciting in the build-up, so I was happy that they did that, right? But Leon beat Colby, so now you got to give Bilal his title shot. Yeah, the fight just makes sense. You do it in July in the UK. And yeah, the fight makes a lot of sense. I know that they offered Leon 3 people that weren't Bilal, but that was for UFC 300, and I'm very happy they didn't do this fight at UFC 300. If this was the main event for UFC 300, I would have been pissed. And good thing we got Pereira, because that was fast, it was a quick knockout, it was a decent fight. This probably would have been a boring fight. And I get it, people, it's 2 boring fighters, you don't want to see it. But it's probably going to be a boring fight, and Leon's probably going to end up winning. So when Leon wins, what you do next is Kamaru Usman versus Bilal Muhammad. Why not? So you'll have Bilal Muhammad coming off a loss to Leon, and here's what's going to happen. It's going to be a boring fight with Leon. It's going to be a 3-2. Leon wins 3 rounds, Bilal wins 2 rounds, and Bilal looks somewhat decent in the fight. It doesn't look like he's shit, but Leon was just a little bit better. And that's the same exact thing that happened in Kamaru Usman's fight with Leon. So you have 2 people that lost to Leon, but they've beat a ton of people in the division. You know, you'll have Kamaru Usman, who's coming off of 3 losses. He needs to beat somebody to get his way back on track, right? But you don't want to give him someone like Wonderboy, or if he beats them, it's like, okay, you beat Wonderboy. Does that really matter? You just laid on him for 3 or 5 rounds, however long the fight is. It's not going to be that exciting. It's just going to be like, okay, you beat fucking Wonderboy. It's not going to do much for Usman. If he beats Bilal, a solid contender who would have just fought for the title, that's a good win that gets you back on track, and then you could fight for the title again, possibly. But if Bilal ends up beating Leon, then you do Kamaru Usman versus the loser of this fight. Now, you may be asking, why not the winner? The winner needs to get a title shot, right? These are 2 up-and-coming fighters. Timeline-wise, it makes sense. This fight's probably going to be in August. Leon versus Bilal is probably going to be in July. So timeline-wise, the winner of this fight's going to probably fight Leon or Bilal, whoever wins that fight. So the only thing you can do if Bilal beats Leon is you do the loser of this fight versus Usman, because you got to give Usman a fight if he's going to stay at welterweight. This is all if he stays at welterweight, right? So you got to give him a fight, and the loser of this fight, they'll still be a decent contender. You know, they'll still be a decent fighter. They just lost to another up-and-coming guy. So yeah, I wouldn't mind Usman versus the loser of this fight if Bilal ends up beating Leon. But let's start talking about this fight itself. You got two up and coming fighters, right? Shavkat's like what, 18-0, 18 finishes. You got Jack Della Maina, who just knocked out Gilbert Burns. These are 2 up-and-coming fighters that are they're on the cusp of getting a title shot. They're very close, but of course you got Bilal ahead of them. So yeah, these 2 fight, it will be an exciting fight. You got Jack Della Maina, a lot of power, a brawler. He kind of fights like Jeff Neal, who gave Shavkat's toughest fight. So yeah, it would be exciting. I'd like to see how this fight plays out on the feed. I'd like to see if Shavkat is able to take down Jack Della Maina or submit him. There's a lot of intriguing factors to this fight. Perfect #1 contender fight. You either put it as a feature fight in Australia or a 5-round co-main event. But either way, it'll be a great fight, and I'd probably pick Shavkat for this fight. But moving on to the next fight, Colby Covington versus Ian Garry. Ian Garry is 14-0, undefeated. Colby Covington, he's coming off that title loss to Leon. But let's be real here, right? We're not watching this fight because of where they are in the division and if it makes sense or not. We're watching this fight because of the build-up. 2 of the most hated fighters in the UFC right now, possibly the 2 most hated fighters in the UFC right now. The build-up would be crazy. We already saw their videos back and forth. We all know Colby's going to be calling Ian a cuck the whole time. He's going to be talking about his wife. Ian's probably going to get pissed off. This would be a perfect co-main to Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And yeah, I think the press conference for this fight would be wild. The build-up would be wild. It just makes sense for both guys. Colby needs to fight back a little bit. Ian should fight up because he's just beat a bunch of contenders. And yeah, this fight makes a lot of sense right now. And yeah, it's gonna. I think everyone agrees this is the fight to make right now. If they don't make this fight, that's a huge fumble. The amount of attention this fight would bring, like this would be a perfect. It would be a perfect co-main to Connor Chandler. The press conference would be amazing, and yeah, it just makes sense for both guys. And the build up's gonna be funny as hell. The fucking press conference is gonna be hilarious, and it's gonna be good to see these guys go back and forth on the mic, and then we can see them go back and forth in the octagon. So next fight. Oh, I accidentally skipped one. Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady, right? So you got Gilbert Burns. He's ranked number 6 right now. Sean Brady's ranked number 8. Sean Brady just ragdolled Kevin Holland, so he came back from his loss. He's coming off a win. You got Gilbert Burns. He's coming off of 2 losses right now. Both of these guys lost to Bilal. And with Gilbert Burns right now, I see a lot of people saying Jeff Neal. I see a lot of people saying Joaquin Buckley. Come on, let's not give the guy a fucking power puncher. He just got knocked out. He's coming off of 2 losses. Give him someone that doesn't have a lot of power, a grappler. Uh, I think this fight makes a lot of sense. You got 2 grapplers. You got it's a good fight to get Gilbert back on track. This kind of reminds me of 'cause in my other video, I forget which video it was. I booked Volk versus Aljo. Volk's coming off of losses to dangerous strikers. Islam is a dangerous striker. I don't care what you guys have to say. He is a dangerous striker, right? He's coming off of losses to dangerous strikers. So you don't want to give him another dangerous striker. That's just fucking cruel. You give him someone with not a lot of power, who's not a very dangerous fight, where they're not going to take a lot of damage. That's exactly what you do with Gilbert Burns. He just came off a fucking knockout. He just got knocked out by Jack Delamena, right? That was a fucking. Was it a bad knockout? I don't remember. But he got fucking kneed in the face. He got kneed in the jaw. So you don't want to give him Jeff Neal or Joaquin Buckley, bro. Let's not see him get knocked out again. Let's give him a competitive fight against a solid up and coming fighter who's not super dangerous, who's a good grappler. I think everyone would like to see these guys grappling exchanges. I think Gilbert could catch him in a submission, but Sean Brady could wrestle fuck him maybe. Maybe Sean Brady just ragdolls him on the ground. It's an intriguing fight. It could go either way. And it's a good fight if Gilbert Burns that gets him back on track. That gets him back on track, and then he's a couple wins away from a title shot. But moving on to the next fight, Wonder Boy versus Michael Venom Page. Now I did see Michael Venom Page saying that he doesn't want this fight because it's probably going to end up being boring. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you got 2 older guys. They both use the karate style. It just makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for both guys. And I think it would end up being entertaining. I think it would end up being an entertaining fight. It makes sense. What are they? They're both like 40. They're both about 40. They're both strikers. I think both of these guys, we should give them striking matchups. We don't want to see either of these guys fight Sean Brady because we know it's going to happen. Sean Brady will just ragdoll both of these guys. Or I don't know, maybe not Michael Venom. I don't know. Maybe Michael Venom Page catches him with a knee or some shit, right? But we don't want to take the risk. We don't want to put either of these guys against grapplers. 2 older guys. Rankings wise, it makes sense. It's a fight. People have been talking about this fight for years, honestly. Even when Michael Venom Page was in Bellator, people were saying, "Oh, this is a fight they should make if he goes to the UFC." He just beat Kevin Holland. Make this fight. Put it on the UK card. Put it on the same card as Leon versus Bilal. And I think it would end up being entertaining, good striking match, interesting fight. Honestly, I'd pick MVP in it probably. MVP is a fucking beast, man. MVP is a beast. And forget what I said about Sean Brady. MVP would fucking knock out Sean Brady. MVP is about to be champion. Mark my words. But moving on to the next fight, Joaquin Buckley versus Jeff Neal. 2 heavy-handed hitters, 2 people with a lot of power, 2 brawlers. Fucking firefight. Why not make it entertaining? As it's fight's fucking entertaining as hell. It would be a great fight. There's not much explaining to do to it. It makes sense, right? If this is a good win if Jeff Neal beats Joaquin Buckley, it's a good win to get him back on track. And if Joaquin Buckley beats Jeff Neal, he is really a contender in that division now. And it's a super entertaining fight. It's a great brawl. This could be a fight night headliner. It could be. There's a lot of options for this fight. You could put it on a pay-per-view. You could do a lot with this fight, and it would be entertaining as hell. I think it would be a brawl. I think this honestly could be one of those fights like a fucking. It's a guaranteed finish. It's a guaranteed finish. So, moving on to the next fight, Neil Magny versus Michael Morales. Now, Neil Magny just beat Mike Malott. He was a big underdog in that fight. He just got the upset. But you got Michael Morales, who's undefeated. He's what? He's 5-0 in the UFC, 6-0, something like that. And he just he's beat a bunch of people. So this is a fight you make next. It's a good test for Michael Morales. If Michael Morales beats Neil Magny, he's the real deal. Because we've seen Neil Magny. We've seen him humble a lot of people trying to come into the rankings, and we've seen him become a stepping stool for people. So he's a gatekeeper of the division, and what do you throw gatekeepers to? You throw them to undefeated prospects in the UFC. So yeah, Michael Morales, if he wins his fight, he's a decent contender in the division. He's a threat to everybody. If he loses his fight, then you give him a little bit of a step back. It's a good test. And if Neil Magny beats this guy, that would be two prospects in a row that he just beat when he was probably the underdog for. Then you give him another big fight in the division. But I think right now there's a fight to make. So yeah, I know this fucking looks weird, right? But I'll explain it. Vicente Luque versus the winner of Kevin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. Vicente Luque, he just got beat by Joaquin Buckley. I don't know what the fuck he was doing there. He kind of just quit, but he's well rounded. So he's a well rounded fighter. You know, you got Kevin Gastelum versus D-Rod, two strikers, and Vicente Luque is a decent striker. So it would probably end up being a stand up fight. I think it would be an entertaining fight. You know, fucking yeah, it's a good fight. You run it next. If the winner of Kelvin Gastelum versus D-Rod definitely deserves a ranked fight. They definitely should get a ranked fight next. And Vicente Luque should fight back in the rankings a little bit after his last performance. And it just makes sense ranking wise to have the winner of Kevin Gastelum and D-Rod fight Luque. And I think it would be a good fight. I think it would be an entertaining fight. I think it would be a solid fight. You could slap this as a co-main event to a fight night. Or you could put it maybe an opening fight on a pay-per-view, or maybe a feature fight on the prelims. You could do a lot with this fight. It would be a great fight. Run it. Next fight, Kevin Holland versus Li Jingliang. This would be a fucking entertaining fight, bro. Two heavy-handed strikers. I would love to see how this fight plays out. Honestly, this is a 50-50 fight right here. I want to give Li Jingliang a fucking ranked fight when he comes back, because he's just a legend, man. So you got to give him a ranked fight when he comes back. Kevin Holland versus Li Jingliang. Both got ragdolled by Khamzat. They have they're two fucking taller guys in the welterweight division, two taller, skinnier guys that have a lot of power, great strikers. I don't think there's gonna be any grappling in this fight. Run it. All right, so moving on to the next fight, I'm going to be doing the winner of Rick Knott versus Nicholas Dalby versus the winner of Randy Brown versus Dos Santos. So for people that don't know, that's Rick Knott, that's Nicholas Dalby. They'll be fighting on UFC Saudi Arabia. That's Randy Brown, that's Dos Santos. They'll be fighting on UFC 302. These are two fights right outside of the rankings, two fights where all the people in them, they're not ranked, but they're right outside of the rankings. You know, if they win this fight, they probably deserve a ranked fight. But I think the winner of these two fights fighting each other makes a lot of sense. So yeah, you know, no matter who it is, if Randy Brown won and Nicholas Dalby won, that's a good fight. If Dos Santos wins and Rick Knott win, then in their last fight they actually fought each other and drew. So that would make a lot of sense. If Randy Brown and Rick Knott win, that makes sense. If Nicholas Dalby and Dos Santos win, that makes sense. And no matter, these are all exciting fighters. You know, Rick Knott's exciting. If you look at all his fights, it's exciting. He finishes people fast all of the time. Or he went to a war like the Dos Santos fight. That fight was exciting as hell. Nicholas Dalby, I don't know a lot about him, but I saw his last fight against Gabriel. I don't remember the names, right? Gabriel or Ismail Bobfiend, whoever it was. But the dude was 15-0, undefeated, finishing everybody in like 30 seconds. And then Nicholas Dalby just goes in there and beats him. So impressive win from him. You know, exciting fighter. Randy Brown, exciting striker. Dos Santos, exciting striker. So all of these fights, they're both good fights, and the winners should definitely fight each other. Makes sense, and even the losers fighting each other makes sense too, because all of these fighters against each other are all exciting, entertaining fights that make sense. So moving on to the next fight, Michael Chiesa versus Gunnar Nelson. Oh shit, look at Gunnar Nelson. He's fucking floating a little bit there, but yeah, so Michael Chiesa, he was just ranked, and then due to inactivity, he got taken out of the rankings. You got Gunnar Nelson, who he hasn't fought in a while, man. His last fight was against Brian Barberena, and he beat him. He looked impressive in that fight. Two grapplers, two people that have been around for a while, two people right outside of the rankings, and I think this fight just makes sense for both guys, you know. This fight, it would be a decent fight. It makes sense for both guys. Run it. I say it makes sense. All right, so moving on to the next fight. Santanabio Ponzinibbio. I can't fucking pronounce his name. I'm just gonna call him Ponzinibbio, right? Ponzinibbio versus Mike Mallet. Two people who fought someone ranked in their last fight and then lost. Or Kevin Holland wasn't ranked at the time, but he's ranked now, right? So two people that fought people that are ranked and lost. So yeah. You got Mike Mallet coming off that loss to Neil Magny. You got Ponzinibbio coming off the loss to Kevin Holland. Both lost in the third round. And yeah, I think this is a good fight to get them both back on track, or whoever wins it gets back on track, you know. With Mike Mallet, he was a prospect. He had a lot of hype around him. He lost to Neil Magny. But if he beats Ponzinibbio, that's a solid win. That gets him right back on track. And then you throw him against someone ranked again. And Ponzinibbio, if he's able to get past Mike Mallet, you throw him back to somebody ranked. Ponzinibbio, he's been around for a while. He used to be, I'm pretty sure he was a top contender at one point, right? But he's had a little bit of a downfall. He's lost a couple of fights. But if he beats Mike Mallet, that puts him back on track to get him back to the rankings. So yeah, I think this fight makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's the last fight on the card. So let me know what you guys think about the fights I made. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Put maybe some fights that I missed out on that maybe I should have made. Put what fights you guys would have made. And like, comment, subscribe, all that.